from LA. We're joined by Professor of Psychology at Occidental College, Andrew Schulman. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Professor, why are children so susceptible to misinformation online?
So, as kids start to read and write themselves, they tend to defer to written text as an authoritative source of information. So, you can imagine that as they move onto the internet and they see all these stories that have been recorded with text, that's a kind of social pressure for them to accept it, even if the content of those stories is surprising to them.
So the way that it's packaged on screen is affecting what they take in as truth.
Definitely. Especially because the people who are putting out false information are formatting their stories to look like true stories. The same formatting of the headlines and the source information. There's an accompanying photo, and in a social media feed, the false information, the true information look identical.
Wow. So how do you, help kids, kind of work against that written information and question it at the very least?
Yeah, it depends on how old they are, what kinds of strategies you'd want to teach them. So if they are in middle school and literate and they can read and write quite well, and they're on the internet themselves, then the strategy you want to teach them is known as lateral reading. That's what professional fact checkers do. When you've encountered something dubious on the internet, what you should do is not engage with it further, but instead open up additional tabs in your browser. That's the lateral part. And then investigate what other sources on the internet have to say about the topic or about the source of the original information.
Yeah.
You should disengage with questionable content rather than engage with it further. But when you talk about younger kids, like elementary schoolers who are not yet proficient at reading and writing and are not on the internet by themselves, then I think the first step is just teaching them that not everything you find on the internet is trustworthy, and getting a little bit into journalism. What are news stories? What are best practices for identifying those stories, reporting them, vetting them? How are stories appropriately reported so that they can start to identify sensational writing, sensational photographs that have been doctored perhaps. So even though they might not be finding this information on their own yet, you can get them ready and give them the tools to identify misinformation when they do encounter it.
Yeah, we are going to have a teen fact checker later on in the program, so looking forward to see how he's doing that practically in real time. Professor, I think about social media, I think about people sharing memes, photos, between friends, and that friends or family, that creates a sense of trust for any of us. So how do you, work with kids and help them when they're getting something from what they believe is a trusted source? It may just be this massive spread of bad information.
Right. Yeah, I think this is one of the reasons why their early skepticism is not actually that helpful for keeping them safe from misinformation, because that skepticism is shallow and vulnerable to social pressure. And how often a story is liked is a form of social pressure, how often it's shared, who it's shared by, especially if it's shared by a friend or a family member or an authority figure. Those are all reasons why children might go against their first intuition that this is weird, this is wrong, and just accept it as true because all these other people seem to have accepted it as true.
So are we telling kids, trust your gut, like go back to that original feeling?
Yeah, well, the gut is how you would initiate some additional information seeking. So if you're a little kid, you can ask a parent about what it is you're looking at. Or if you're a middle schooler who can search the internet, you open up those additional windows in your browser and do some searching on your own. That gut intuition that something's off here is really valuable for seeking out additional information about whatever it is you're looking at. And social media is designed to kind of override those gut intuitions with all those social cues.
Yeah, so you have to be extra careful because that's all that a lot of young people tell me that they're on in terms of checking information. It's only social media, Professor.
little kids are not yet on social media, so maybe there's some education that can happen with them to prepare them for what they're going to see, simulated social media. But once they're on there, there's very little that parents and educators can do to monitor, story by story, post by post, whether that information is correct or not. I think that the strategies that you need to instill are helping kids just be critical consumers of online information. And that includes being what psychologists are calling critical ignorers, that a lot of misinformation, the whole point of it is just to grab your attention and keep you interested, looking for more. And so you're just rewarding the people that created this misinformation by engaging with it further. So lateral reading is a great example of critical ignoring, because you disengage from the information and you seek out other sources of information.
Such great tips. Professor, great to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me.